Welcome to Season 2 of The White Book by Makavelli. It felt like this was the right time to do this. It was a magical time, Season 1, the original time where we all experienced and explored the White Book together. It took my life on a transformative journey that opened doors, revealed truths, things that I wanted to know about were all contained in the bindings of this particular book. And I wanted to say this book, people go into this with one idea of what this is about, and it's about something completely else. And you have to read it to fully get it, or you could go through all my season 1 chapter reviews. But even then, it's for the individual to experience on their own. It's like in The Matrix when Morpheus explains that when you meet the Oracle, it's for you and the Oracle to know. There's been things that have been coming up lately that's made me think about the White Book. And my initial reading of it, I didn't know all these topics yet. I didn't understand. So I need to do a second run of it. But I'm going to do it as time permits. I feel like people were waiting on me every week to drop the new White Book video. But now I'm going to do it at my own leisure, at my own pace, over the course of time, as it feels right. So what we're going to do here in this particular episode is look at a particular cultural reference, and that's why I put all those cultural references in season 1. It had to do with, really, it was a plan for me to do a second season on this, which we're doing now. But really, actually, the primary reason was I was trying to get the viewer to have the research topics to investigate on their own. I don't know how much that took place, but I was trying to do the work for you so that you could then learn more, for the things that I didn't get to cover. There's so many little topics per chapter that I couldn't cover them all. But this particular episode is going to focus on, and I mentioned this in the 1977 and 1979 episodes because it was covered in 1979, the two plans. It mentions down here in his 1979 autobiography, With No Apologies, former Senator Barry Goldwater had this to say about the goals of one of their brightest members. Now, unfortunately, the next page shows excerpt 11. And I don't believe I have excerpt 14, and there's no information on that. So, and I don't have excerpt 14. In the 1977 chapter, I mentioned that I had read With No Apologies by Barry Goldwater back in the day. And I found somebody online that read With No Apologies as well. And they took excerpts from the book that I think greatly pertain to this particular 1979 chapter. I mean, if you understand what this chapter is about, With No Apologies is definitely about that. So I'm going to read to you these excerpts that they took from With No Apologies by Barry Goldwater. I used to have the book. I was looking around the house for it. I can't find it. I would have been showing it off. But I don't have, I guess I sold it on eBay. I don't know why I would sell my Barry Goldwater With No Apologies book. But we're going to go through it here. So, if anything, rejoice that season 2 of the White Book is here. And we are covering Barry Goldwater's excerpts from With No Apologies that published in 1979.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice. And let me remind you also that moderation in the pursuit of justice is no virtue.
So you just heard the most famous words from Barry Goldwater's most famous speech in 1964 when he was running for president. In the primaries, he was running against Nelson Rockefeller, and then in the general election, he ran against Lyndon Johnson. The 1964 Republican primary was a definitive moment in the Republican Party where the party split into two separate factions. Barry Goldwater is considered the father of conservatism, or Mr. Conservative, and his opponent, Nelson Rockefeller, created what is now known as the Rockefeller Republicans, also known as the elite establishment. And we saw parallels to this in the 2016 election with Donald Trump being the Goldwater figure of present day, with opposition coming from Mitt Romney, John Kasich, Jeb Bush, Hillary Clinton, Lindsey Graham, and others that defend the elite establishment New World Order. Obviously, Trump was the maverick against the New World Order openly.
I am going to withdraw the United States from the Trans-Pacific Partnership. I'm going to tell our NAFTA partners that I intend to immediately renegotiate the terms of that agreement to get a better deal by a lot, not just a little, by a lot for our workers. And when they say trade expansion, they're talking about other countries. They're not talking about us, because there is no expansion. They get the expansion, we get the joblessness. That's the way it works.
Just as Barry Goldwater was against the New World Order publicly in his book, and you will see as we examine these excerpts where Barry Goldwater stands, and you'll see that it is very consistent with the truth community. When I originally read With No Apologies, I was astonished at how much Barry Goldwater said in this book, because it was everything I was reading about as I was going through truthing and learning about all the powers that be. It was mind-blowing to see it spelled out for us by such a prominent person. The New World Order establishment controls the news. They controlled it in 1964. They still control it in 2016. They successfully got people to go against Goldwater in 1964, and they tried using the same tricks and tactics in 2016 against Trump, but it didn't work this time. So in 1964, Fact Magazine put out this article. It was a long article saying that psychiatrists say Goldwater is psychologically unfit to be president. And then in 2016 and 2017, actually is when Trump became president, you had this media blitz of all these psychologists and psychiatrists saying that Trump is unfit to be president.
A briefing specifically to look at Donald Trump's mental fitness to be president. And specifically in that briefing, she said she believes, according to her professional opinion, that Donald Trump is showing signs of impairment, is what she told them. She believes he's become very unstable very quickly, that he is unraveling, again, in her opinion, and that she believes he seems to be losing his grip on reality. And she left that meeting, Aaron, with the impression that many lawmakers were legitimately concerned about President Trump's mental health.
And there's many parallels to the Never Trump campaign, to Never Goldwater. And if you look back on how hard John McCain and Mitt Romney went against Trump, and then compare that to how hard they went against Obama, it was nothing in comparison. They were so against Trump. Members of the same Republican Party went so hard against Trump and barely put up an effort against Obama. It lets you know the Republican Party and the Democrat Party are really the New World Order party. And guys like Goldwater, Ron Paul, and Donald Trump.
There is nothing the political establishment will not do, no lie that they won't tell, to hold their prestige and power at your expense. And that's what's been happening. And for the global special interest, they partner with these people that don't have your good in mind. Our campaign represents a true existential threat like they haven't seen before.
And when you go against their agenda, they'll call you crazy, racist, a nut job. That's what they do. They character assassinate. They have the means through the media to do it, and they're very effective at doing it. Fortunately, the truth movement is on the rise. People are now wise to these techniques of manipulation that the establishment, the New World Order, and the media conduct and run these psyops on the people. Everyone needs to become educated on these techniques, see these parallels throughout history, know the factions, know the ideologies. I'm not saying Trump's the greatest guy in the world, but when I saw how hard his own party went against him, I was like, wow, this is Trump against the world. All eyes on T. And I was like, I got to go with this guy because he's public enemy number one.
Okay, I don't really understand. You have to explain to me what is going on, Peter.
Listen, if you want to know what is going on, you have to listen to me.
I've listened.
All right, let's get to these excerpts. That was the whole point of this video. I got off on a tangent. So on page 128 of With No Apologies, Goldwater says the CFR is the American branch of a society which originated in England, internationalist in viewpoint. The CFR, along with the Atlantic Union Movement and the Atlantic Council of the United States, believes national boundaries should be obliterated and one world rule established. That's a one world order right there. Still think Trump and Goldwater are the bad guys? Let's see the next slide. All right, page 277. In its September 1st, 1961 issue, the Christian Science Monitor described the Council on Foreign Relations as probably one of the most influential semi-public organizations in the field of foreign policy. The Monitor said the CFR is composed of 1,400 of the most elite names in the world of government, labor, business, finance, communication, the foundations, and the academies. It has staffed almost every key position of every administration since that of FDR.
May the 29th, 1954, a consortium of bankers, industrialists, corporate CEOs, and politicians held a series of meetings over 3 days at the Bilderberg Hotel in Oosterbeek, Holland. They drew up a plan for maintaining the status quo.
Page 277 to 278. In September 1939, two members of the Council on Foreign Relations, Hamilton Fish Armstrong and Walter H. Mallory, visited the State Department to offer the Council's services. They proposed to do research and make recommendations for the department without formal assignment or responsibility, particularly in 4 areas: security armaments, economic and financial problems, political problems, and territorial problems. The Rockefeller Foundation agreed to finance the operation of this plan. From that day forward, the Council on Foreign Relations has placed its members in policymaking positions with the federal government, not limited to the State Department. Since 1944, every Secretary of State, with the exception of James F. Barnes, has been a member of the CFR. Almost without exception, the members of the CFR are united by a congeniality of birth, economic status, and educational background. Page 278. I believe that the Council on Foreign Relations and its ancillary elitist groups are indifferent to communism. They have no ideological anchors. In their pursuit of a new world order, they are prepared to deal without prejudice with a communist state, a socialist state, a democratic state, a monarchy, an oligarchy. It's all the same to them. Just like I was saying, the Republicans and Democrats, same party. Page 278. Rear Admiral Chester Ward, U.S. Navy, retired, who was a member of the CFR for 16 years, has written, "The most powerful clique in these elitist groups have one objective in common. They want to bring about the surrender of the sovereignty and the national independence of the United States." Page 279. When we change presidents, it is understood to mean that the voters are ordering a change in national policy. Since 1945, 3 different Republicans have occupied the White House for a period of 16 years. 4 Democrats have held this most powerful post for 17 years. With the exception of the first 7 years of the Eisenhower administration, there has been no appreciable change in foreign or domestic policy direction.
They drew up a plan for maintaining the status quo. It's the way things are. It's the rich get richer, the poor get poorer.
Page 279. When a new president comes on board, there is a great turnover in personnel, but no change in policy. Example, during the Nixon years, Henry Kissinger, CFR member and Nelson Rockefeller's protege, was in charge of foreign policy. When Jimmy Carter was elected, Kissinger was replaced by Zbigniew Brzezinski, CFR member and David Rockefeller's protege.
They devised a plan to manipulate technology, economics, the media, population control, world religion to keep things the way they are.
Page 280. The implications in Governor Rockefeller's presentation have become concrete proposals advanced by David Rockefeller's newest international cabal, the Trilateral Commission, whereas the Council on Foreign Relations is distinctly national in membership. The Trilateral Commission is international. Representation is allocated equally to Western Europe, Japan, and the United States. It is intended to be the vehicle for multinational consolidation of the commercial and banking interests by seizing control of the political government of the United States.
They have continued to meet once a year, every year since the original meeting. Look it up.
Okay.
Page 280. Zbigniew Brzezinski and David Rockefeller screened and selected every individual who was invited to participate in shaping and administering the proposed New World Order. In the late 1950s, Brzezinski, an accepted member of the inner circle of academics, asserting the need for global strategies, was openly anti-communist. However, by 1964, he had modified his criticism of communism. Page 280 to 281. The trilateral organization created by David Rockefeller was a surrogate. Its members selected by Rockefeller, its purposes defined by Rockefeller, its funding supplied by Rockefeller. Whether or not the approximately 200 individuals selected for membership on the commission represent the best brains in the world is an arguable proposition. Examination of the membership roster establishes beyond question that all those invited to join were members of the power elite, enlisted with great skill and singleness of purpose from the banking, commercial, political, and communications sectors.
A consortium of bankers, industrialists, corporate CEOs, and politicians held a series of meetings over 3 days at the Bilderberg Hotel in Oosterbeek, Holland. They drew up a plan for maintaining the status quo.
Page 281. Most Americans have no real understanding of the operation of the international moneylenders, and the bankers want it that way. We recognize in a hazy sort of way that the Rothschilds and the Warburgs of Europe and the houses of J.P. Morgan, Kuhn, Loeb and Company, Schiff, Lehman and Rockefeller possess and control vast wealth. How they acquire this vast financial power and employ it is a mystery to most of us. International bankers make money by extending credit to governments. The greater the debt of the political state, the larger the interest return to the lenders. The national banks of Europe are actually owned and controlled by private interests.
Developing an intraepidermal tracking microchip.
What?
It's a surveillance tool. It's a computer chip that has been implanted in the skin of every human being born on the planet since 1982.
Page 282. The accounts of the Federal Reserve System have never been audited. It operates outside the control of Congress and through its Board of Governors manipulates the credit of the United States. Page 284. In my view, the Trilateral Commission represents a skillful, coordinated effort to seize control and consolidate the four centers of power: political, monetary, intellectual, and ecclesiastical. All this is to be done in the interest of creating a more peaceful, more productive world community. Throughout my public life and in these pages, I have refrained from judging other men's motives. I have no hesitancy about judging their wisdom and the results of the actions taken. Page 285. What the Trilaterals truly intend is the creation of a worldwide economic power superior to the political government of the nation-states involved. They believe the abundant materialism they propose to create will overwhelm existing differences. As managers and creators of the system, they will rule the future.
Jesus.
But it's not enough just to track people, to spy on them. They want control.
Yeah.
So they create
Yeah.
the intelligence, manned, interface, biochip, a subcutaneous transponder, a computer chip imprinted with living brain cells.
Page 286. David Rockefeller and Zbigniew Brzezinski found Jimmy Carter, their ideal candidate. They helped him win the nomination and the presidency. To accomplish this purpose, they mobilized the money power of the Wall Street bankers, the intellectual influence of the academic community, which is subservient to the wealth of the great tax-free foundations, and the media controllers represented in the membership of the CFR and the Trilateral. And here for the final slide, page 299. We have arrived at our present position of peril in the world and at home because our leaders have refused to tell us the truth. Unless we, who profess to believe in freedom, wake up, the world is headed for a period of slavery. And this came out in 1979, the year of my birth. Barry Goldwater ran for president in 1964. They absolutely character assassinated him and scared the population from him, just like they're doing against Donald Trump. And if you're watching this pissed off in your mind that how dare I talk about Trump, you've been controlled by the media. There's reasons to not like Trump, but not the ones that you probably have.
They need a chip that will self-perpetuate, that will spread like a virus, that people can pass to each other, to everyone. They got it!
And I'm not tripping on the two-party system. Trump is third party, just like Ron Paul was third party. They just happen to run on the Republican platform, just like Bernie Sanders ran on the Democrat platform, but he's really on his own little party, third party. Just like Jill Stein, third party. The ones that are actually tripping on the two-party system are the ones that are furious with Trump, calling me out for being in a two-party mindset. I'm not. All those that oppose Trump see is the R. They see the R and they follow the media, and that's what's brainwashed them.
I have been often to, the mothership in New York City, but it's good to have an outpost of the council right here down the street from the State Department. We get a lot of advice from the council, so this will mean I won't have as far to go to be told what we should be doing and how we should think about the future.
Trump represents the anti-New World Order movement. The media won't tell you that. They'll tell you Trump represents the racists of the world. And so here's a deceiving CBS News article. Disturbing photos of the modern-day Ku Klux Klan. The number of hate groups in the U.S. rose for a second straight year in 2016, according to the Southern Poverty Law Center. The radical right was energized by the candidacy of Donald Trump, the SPLC said in a February 2017 news release. The Ku Klux Klan is the oldest American hate group, and while the number of active KKK chapters declined in 2016, members of the Klan are trying to regain ground. Okay, so we're seeing that it's declining, but they're pinning the Ku Klux Klan on Trump here. During a decline, they're saying that it's gone up, but it's gone down. The SPLC estimates that there are between 5,000 and 8,000 Klan members nationwide, split between many factions. Here, now watch this. Talking about Trump, you get this picture of this Klan member. But then here, a member of the Ku Klux Klan salutes during American Nazi Party rally at Pennsylvania's Valley Forge National Park in September 2004. 2004! Trump ran in 2016. And because we can't see who's behind the mask, that could be a CFR member with a KKK mask on. The same New World Order could also be sponsoring and paying people to put on these robes. You can't see their faces, and then tell them to go to a Donald Trump rally, take their photograph and say, see, the KKK's there. And you got people that get mad at the phrase fake news. This article is so fake, they're showing you a photograph from 2004, associating it to Donald Trump, saying that hate groups are on the rise, but yet they're actually statistically going down, and that there's only 5,000 to 8,000 members nationwide in a country of 350 million. But hey, they're for Trump. Just that small amount of people are for Trump. If they even were, this is fake news. This is fake news. And watch how they used to do fake news back then.
We represent the majority of the people in Alabama who hate niggerism, Catholicism, Judaism, and all the isms of the whole world. So said Robert Creel of the Alabama Ku Klux Klan. He also said, I like Barry Goldwater. He needs our help. Vote for President Johnson on November 3rd.
That was an ad for Goldwater's opponent, Lyndon Johnson. Ran that ad saying, hey, the KKK is for Goldwater, so therefore you got to vote for Johnson. And then they also ran all these things that Goldwater is for wars and nukes and a bunch of stuff like that. Now, this article here also, it's not like it's some random online website. This is CBS News running this article. And here's them using the KKK in 1964 with these signs that supposedly say these guys are for Goldwater, and therefore, you can't vote for them. And this is their technique that anytime anybody goes against their agenda, they scream racist. The way I saw this thing with the KKK painted, you would have thought that there's KKK members all over the place. 5,000 to 8,000 nationwide, that's nothing. 8,000 people out of a country of 315 million? And then on top of all that, KKK originated in the Democrat Party. And supposedly there was a party switch after the civil rights and the Southern strategy. It's pretty convenient to me. You export your hooligans out of your party, tell them to join the other party, and then blame the other party for the people that were from your original party. And on top of all that, Goldwater bars Klan aid. This is an article from August 7, 1964. August 6, Senator Barry Goldwater and his vice presidential running mate, Representative William E. Miller, met here today with former President Dwight Eisenhower and Richard Nixon and solicited their advice on the coming campaign. In an informal conference after the meeting, Mr. Goldwater firmly repudiated the Ku Klux Klan and said he did not want the support of organizations bearing that name. The Klan was one of 3 groups cited at the Republican National Convention in a debate whether to name extremist groups in the party's platform. The 2 others were the Communist Party and the John Birch Society. Rejects Klan support. In rejecting support of the Klan, Mr. Goldwater seemed to have overruled both Mr. Miller and the new Republican National Chairman, Dean Birch. In recent days, both of them have said that the Republicans would not reject the support of Klansmen. Mr. Miller, standing at the senator's elbow, expressed agreement. He said the Republicans didn't seek or want the support of the Klan. Now here's something neat for historical purpose. So in an unusually active day, Mr. Goldwater also confirmed in Washington with Governor George Romney of Michigan, that's Mitt Romney's dad, and spoke to a breakfast meeting there of about 100 Republican members of the Senate and House. The meetings were designed to promote party unity. Miller explains his views. Mr. Miller was reported to have replied that he did not condemn individuals who were members of the Klan, although he naturally would not accept the support of the organization itself. Mr. Goldwater spoke more strongly, saying he was against the Klan and what it stood for. Mr. Goldwater added that he was against the principles and actions of Robert H.W. Welch Jr., the founder president of the John Birch Society, but that there were decent people within that latter organization. Mr. Miller was reported to have said that his own mother might have joined the Birch Society if it had been described to her in the simple anti-communist terms in which it was described to most new members. Then later in the article, it says that although the nation, he said, is united behind President Johnson and his actions in Vietnam, Democrats do not understand the threat of international communism and are like the pacifists after World War I who wanted to have peace at any price. Just remember, everybody that goes against them, they paint as a racist. Go back and check it out, and you'll see it. I'm not 100% happy with everything Trump is doing. You know, the tariffs is questionable as far as free markets go. The support of the raising the gun age in Florida to 21 seems like a gun grab, seems like it's gun control. Those are things to be upset about, but not the stuff the media trains you to be mad about. Be mad about gun control. Do your own research. Decide for yourself. This was covered in the 1979 chapter of the White Book. It was referenced by name, 1979, with no apologies, by Barry Goldwater, Senator Barry Goldwater. It's in here. I'm covering it, giving a historical perspective just like I've done throughout all of the White Book chapter videos I've done. The manipulation and deception of the New World Order, along with the communist agenda, because it's cloaked in secrecy and people don't know what they're faced against. That's why I expose it and talk about it. I'm primarily against the secrecy and their methods of doing it and the manipulation of people. Know the ideologies of what is going on or the agendas. The majority of people don't even know what the word ideology means, that there's different isms. They couldn't pick them out between the two. Their idea of the New World Order for most people is the WWF, or maybe it was WWE, New World Order with Hollywood Hulk Hogan, Macho Man, and all of them. That's what the majority of people think the New World Order is. So, yeah. And in the White Book, the New World Order is referenced and talked about. In fact, the name of this chapter is The Two Plans. And if you heard the recent Lindsey Williams interview with Jeff Rense, and they also did one with George Norrie, he said that the New World Order has been put on hold by about 20 years, and they're going back to their other plan, that they're going to go back to making the U.S. the world's greatest exporter of oil. So, but the two plans here, I already explained those two plans in the original 1979 video, so you might want to go back and rewatch that. You might want to reread this chapter. It's only 10 pages. It's fascinating stuff, and there's so much more from this chapter that I'll make into videos over time. I hope you're excited that this is back. I don't know how often I'll be doing it, but I hope this was educational and informational. If you have any issues with the subject matter, feel free to place it in the comments below. We're just trying to get free here. I'm not trying to push any agenda. My agenda, if you want to know what my agenda is, it is to release all the technology to liberate mankind, to make money obsolete, governments obsolete, corporations obsolete, everything obsolete, a Napster for everything, give everybody the lifestyle of a billionaire, make Earth a non-stop, all expenses paid vacation, release the 3D printers, release the biotechnology, release the eternal life, all that stuff. I'm for all the suppressed technology. If you look on my channel, there's a video called Trump and the Breakaway Civilization where Trump says he's going to release some of that tech. When I hear that, I'm like, okay, that's my guy. So that's what I go for, is anyone that is trying to make human beings independent, complete independence, absolute freedom, extreme freedom, not quite anarchism. I don't mind us, having rules and stuff so that we could all live together. But control, I'm against any form of control, and especially deception, manipulation, and the wasting of human beings' time and using people as useful idiots. All that is what I'm against. I'm not playing any party politics. I'm playing the politics of freedom. And I even have a video on my channel. It's called The Political Topic That Ends All Political Topics. If you want to know where I stand, that video represents me 100%, plus my artificial scarcity videos. I have a playlist that's called Artificial Scarcity Examples. Check that out. Explore my channel. And I'll see you next time in the White Book video. This is Season 2's premiere episode.